Hello, thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television, AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria. It's our program that puts the searchlight on topical issues in the polity. My name is Benga Aruleba. The PDP ended its series of consultative meetings in Abuja on Tuesday with a clear objective to rebuild the party in no time. As part of the Operation Rebuild the Party, Operation Rebuild the PDP, the party is to hold a special non-elective national convention in August. Let's take a listen to Prince Dayo Adeyeye, who read the communique of the meeting after the last one ended yesterday evening.
NEC declared and affirmed the leadership of the party in the two states of Jigawa and Benue that emerged after the April-May 2016 congresses. That's the first part of that resolution. The second part of the resolution was all states, caretaker committees, and state parallel executives set up after Court of Appeal judgment of February 17, 2017 at Port Harcourt to be reversed, and those validly elected are to be returned to office forthwith. So the prolonged litigation of the national leadership tussle ended only last week on the 12th of July 2017, when the Supreme Court finally gave judgment in favor of National Caretaker Committee, leaving barely 1 month for the conduct of proper elective national convention, taking into account the requisite statutory notice that we need to give to INEC and the requirements of the PDP Constitution 2012 as amended. Therefore, NEC took a decision today that in view of all the circumstances, NEC, invoking the powers conferred on it under Section 31(2) subsection A, today decided to convene a special non-elective national convention on August 12, 2017 in Abuja.
Still on politics, the Lagos State House of Assembly has set a record in legislative, brinkmanship if you prefer, by passing a law in 1 day. Now, this probably would have been a positive development to celebrate, except that here, what has happened in the hallowed chambers of the Lagos State House of Assembly is nothing but legislative rascality and legislative tyranny. It remains to be seen if the Honorable House would have resorted to this same legislative coup if it was any of the lesser parties that would have been the beneficiary of his action yesterday. Obviously, no. So long as what has happened here was just to find an escape route for the ruling APC, which obviously boxed itself to a tight legal corner, again because of its growing culture of impunity and lack of internal democracy, then this piece of legislative abracadabra stands condemned. Obviously, the APC learned nothing from what happened in the Osun West senatorial district election, which just took place not too long ago, where the man is denied his ticket, left the party for another one, and flatly defeated the APC candidate. Now, yesterday, the Lagos House of Assembly rushed through first, second, and third reading an amendment to the state electoral law, which would now allow any political party, but here, of course, is the APC that the members have in mind, to submit the name of his candidate to the State Electoral Commission 3 days to the local government election taking place this weekend. The APC had conducted a most acrimonious primaries to elect its candidates for Saturday's election in the 20 local government councils and the 37 local council development areas, LCDAs. But, you know, but the party decided to centralize the primaries rather than hold them at the different council headquarters as required by law. It was all in a bid to impose candidates, no more, no less. But one of the primaries, the one of Odiolowo SED, boomerang seriously as one of the aspirants went to court, got a court order which nullified the entire the exercise in respect of the LCDA, and the court ordered a fresh primaries which just took place yesterday. Now, under the old electoral law, I mean, it would have been impossible for the APC to have a candidate for the Odiolowo SCDA on Saturday because the time had lapsed for any political party to submit the list of its candidates. So, the result to this legislative uh, jiggery pokery, if you permit, or legislative jankara, just to give the APC the opportunity of a candidate on Saturday. Now, that is not a piece of good law, if you ask me. And the APC, the Lagos State House of Assembly, all the members, the governor, who I understand has also put his signature to this law, and indeed all otherwise men and women of good conscience in the APC who see nothing wrong in this legislative rascality, all of you stand condemned in the court of democracy and, well, shall I say the court of public opinion as well. All right, let's move on. Let's set the template for our discussion this morning. Members of the National Assembly Committee on Constitutional Amendment ended a summit in Lagos at the weekend to deliberate on the task of amending the Constitution. Now, with this, the course is clear for what should be a thorough and holistic review of not just the Constitution, but the electoral regime as well. But there are indications that this may not happen. For instance, the not too young to run bill, which had proposed a review of the age requirements for some political offices, governor, president, and all of that. This bill is conspicuously missing on the list of bills that the honorable members and the senators have now decided to work on for the purposes of amending the electoral regime and also amending the Constitution. Now, how democratic is a system which clearly shuts out over half of its population from active participation in politics? These and many others are the issues we will be raising this morning as we again key to the issue of constitution amendment. Join us after this short break.
They see chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
Bro. All right, if you're just joining us, we are starting the discussions now. Let's leave the devil out of this. Samson Itodo is joining me for this morning's conversation. Samson is of not too young to run movement. Good to see you, Samson.
A pleasure to be here again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ezewa Wago is also here. Ezewa is chairman, partners for electoral reform. Ezewa, good to see you.
Morning, sir.
All right, let's start from, let's go back to our unfinished business. That's the task of constitutional amendment, electoral reforms, and all of that. Obviously, these are unfinished assignments because we have continued to ignore the hard questions, always looking for the easy way out, quick fixes. We think we have solved the problem, an election comes, then the problems come full blast, staring us in the face. How urgent is this assignment, considering the fact that some months back, INEC already rolled out the timetable for the 2019 general elections?
I think if you look at the number of days that we have for the next general elections, we're somewhere around 398, 97 working days to the 2019 elections. And we still have our amendment process still ongoing. We know that the Senate has concluded its own amendments to the Electoral Act. but the House is yet to even lay its report. And they're going on recess next week. So it leaves us in a state of uncertainty with respect to when these reforms to the Electoral Act will be finalized before the 2019 election. And it's got huge implications. Yeah. First, for the Electoral Commission itself, its planning. Will the Electoral Commission design the 2019 election plan based on the provisions of the Electoral Act as currently existing, or based on a new act? Yeah. Whichever way, it does appear that we will be going into the 2019 elections with an act that
we're barely familiar with.
That we're barely familiar with. And so that poses a lot of danger, and it's something that we need to mount more pressure on the National Assembly to perform its functions. If you look at the Senate, it took the Senate about 1 full year to conclude its own amendments to the Electoral Act. And if you look at the constitution review process as well, because there are some amendments that have constitutional, that require constitutional amendments, and putting all of this together, I think we have wasted a lot of time in trying to amend these laws way before the elections. And we're actually already in a state of national election emergency. And our National Assembly needs to prioritize conclusion of the Constitution Review amendments as well as the amendments to the Electoral Act.
The belief had been that if this process is concluded speedily, those stand-alone elections, we have one coming up in November in Anambra. Ekiti will likely follow soon, anytime next year, maybe before April or so next year. Then Osun will closely be following after Ekiti. One had expected that if those amendments had been effected before now, those stand-alone elections would have offered us the best opportunity to test out those new areas that have been introduced into the electoral regime. But as things stand now, we're likely to miss out on those timelines again. And just like we had in 2015, when the Electoral Act was amended just days before the election, so that nobody even knew what those amendments were, that's the same situation we are likely to be confronted with again.
Well, I think the expectation is the expectation. I really sometimes worry why we have those kind of expectations, knowing the kind of folks that we have making laws for us. If we had a new crop of lawmakers, then that expectation will have sufficiently captured our imagination that something quickly will happen. Yeah. The dilemma, the bigger challenge of our electoral reform expectation is that it is coming from people who truly, in my very modest view, do not work for public good. We have not taken time to look at even the cost. What is the cost of this perennial constitutional amendment? Yes, have we ever taken the pains to even take a peep into how much is it costing us in every legislative year to amend the Constitution? Is there a political economy to the constitutional amendment process that we are not aware of that makes it such that you have to leave it again somehow for the next legislative year so that there will be a budget for constitutional amendment? Are there other commercial interests as well that drive our constitutional amendment processes? We need to deal with those things. Except we do, we will just be, and we respect our National Assembly in such a way that we are not able anymore to even interrogate very clearly what they are doing. And you see, you just finished the committee stage. You have gone to Lagos to have a retreat. Watch it out. Just watch out what the play is. Okay? So for me, I truly wish that we have people who truly would want to work for Nigeria in the National Assembly and will expeditiously, understanding the emergency that Samson talked about, understanding the need for having a legal platform on which credible election can stand. Except that happens, you will even put the Supreme Court if you saw 2015, you had very unclear issues about what is the role of the card reader, what does it do, what, and all of that. You had judgments in different places, different kinds of judgments. We want a situation in which what is important, and I think that going to election in 2019 will be one of the most important things that we face, because it's the only legitimate recruitment process that we have. Should be more important to members of the National Assembly at this critical time, so that we can at least know where we're going.
All right, Samson, Ezewa said something that struck a chord in me just now, which is we need to interrogate the process, whether indeed this constitutional amendment has become a real franchise. Because if you vote billions of naira for a project in the life of every National Assembly, and that project is never achieved, deliberately so, or perhaps maybe one can impute that is deliberately so. Because if you look at what is even going on now, it's also pointing in that direction that the job will probably be half done again. And after they have done what they think is right, we'll begin to agitate again for fresh effort, which then prepares the next budget for them, you know, when the next National Assembly comes in. Now that will be sad.
It will. I think the fundamental question is whether we're getting value for money.
Are we getting value?
Democracy, the practice of democracy itself is a very expensive enterprise. But that does not justify the reasons why we should vote lots of resources for our constitutional review process.
Without achieving results.
Without achieving results. And I would say that we've not gotten value for our money, especially taxpayers' money. In the 7th Assembly, we sent a Freedom of Information request to the National Assembly to publish the budget details on how the budget for constitution review was expended. And we knew how that actually went, because the National Assembly, particularly the House, couldn't publish the details of the expenditure on the constitution review process, because you can't go through this process of every session of the National Assembly have undertaken one constitutional amendment process or the other.
The budget for the 7th Assembly for constitutional review was like about 4 point something.
It was about 4 point something, 5 billion.
Close to 5
but
billion.
what happened at the end of the day? The House or the National Assembly concluded its job and then sent the amendment to the President, and the President declined assent. And there were justifiable grounds why he declined assent. And to a large extent, I think the 7th Assembly didn't do its homework very well, because there are certain gaps in the process and the voting procedure, and there are some very contentious issues. And that's why the 4th alteration couldn't be assented to by the President. And here we are again in another constitution review process, although this Assembly have kept on saying before the end of this year these processes will be concluded. But our fingers are crossed, and we're watching to see if in the true sense this process will be concluded, because they've just come back from the Lagos retreat, and there are reports that they will be laying their reports before the House and the Senate for voting before they proceed on their recess. Well, we are waiting for that, but if you follow the news over the last couple of days, you will see that there were some issues, some priority issues, some people-centered issues, and issues that Nigerians as a collective have agreed that we should factor this into our constitution, that were not in any way captured in the discussions that took place in Lagos. And to what extent the National Assembly is managing the expectations and undergoing or conducting this process in a way and manner that the outcomes of this reflects the wishes of and the desires of the people. It's something that we are very, very concerned about, because the Constitution is an autonomous document. It's a document that emanates from the people. So the people are the center of any constitution-making process. Now, where the people articulate their issues in whatever manner, and their elected representatives decide to ignore those issues and prioritize some other issues that they feel are of topmost priority to them, then we've got a huge problems on our hand. And then people will start raising questions whether we've got true representatives in the National Assembly, or the individuals and our lawmakers in the National Assembly are only serving their own interest, or we are getting value for money. And the demand has always been, yes, this National Assembly is the only parliamentary institution, the legislature, based on our Constitution. They are a creation of the Constitution. So they are a very important institution. And they represent the democracy that we practice. Therefore, in managing the constitutional review process, the collective interest of the people must be of topmost priority to our lawmakers. And I do hope that as we engage this process, the interest of the people will be prioritized as against the individual interest of our lawmakers.
Talking about prioritizing what affects the people, a list of resident electoral commissioners was submitted to the Senate, I think in March. Yeah, March. This is July, where we still have at least 12 names that are still there with them in the National Assembly that has not been cleared.
You see,
and yet these are resident electoral commissioners whose roles in the electoral process very crucial, very, very crucial, particularly with the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise that is going on now, that has been subjected to all manners of abuses here and there. These are processes that the Regs should have taken charge of.
You see, the first is that the piecemeal clearance, at the risk of being immodest, if you interrogate it as well, you
suggest something fishy.
You will understand that it has nothing to do with,
due diligence.
Due diligence. It simply means somebody has not come to see us, and that's the challenge. And you see, this continues to go under the carpet. You say, oh, if you don't clear Magu, if Magu is not removed, then we are not going to do. There are issues that even in war, you prioritize that one and say, look, let's keep this war apart. Let's deal with this issue.
Because it also affects us.
Yes, because INEC has put out the 2019 strategic plan. Civil society, the media, everybody is looking to that. The people who will be the implementers of this strategic plan are on suspended. They are suspended. They can't take off. They don't even know whether they are going to be cleared or not going to be cleared. Yesterday we got rumors that they were going to, they will do that. But that's not even the point. If you look at even the way we have amended the Electoral Act, in one of our programs, you did say that is one of the most amended piece of law. It's
amended at every election.
Now there are even stronger issues that are coming out, even from judgments that we are seeing. Yeah. Okay, for me, for instance, if a political party nominates a candidate, wrongly, either with forged certificates and the rest of them, what sanctions goes to that political party? The person who is nominated with wrong certificates, and the court says he falsified, results. Is anybody sanctioning that person? Does he just walk away after the judgment? Those are some of the issues.
And if it's a pre-election matter, the court cannot nullify the election.
Cannot nullify the election. So we are dealing with, if you had very serious-minded people, you wouldn't even have time to pay courtesy call to somebody in Lagos. If you went for a serious walk, where will you have the time to do photo opportunities in Lagos? It demonstrates seriously that, for me, citizens, the obstacles against citizen engagement with the legislative process needs to be taken out first. You have what you call public hearing that is not public. In any material particular is not public. They arrange themselves there. You come to the place. They say once you 3 minutes. They say, okay, if you have anything, please drop it. And nobody ever gets to look at these things. So until we have a process that is robust, that is citizen driven in terms of how laws are made for the benefit of the citizens, we're going to have people who think they are lords. And if you see the way they carry themselves, is only in Nigeria where somebody will address himself as honorable something. we are the ones to call you honorable. They go about as if they exist, we exist for them and not them for us. And I think as we move forward, look at this, I mean, Samson is bearing not too young to run. Look at how constricting the space is. You went to amend the constitution. You have opportunity to amend the constitution, and you have not seen the need.
Yeah. To open up the space.
To open up the space in such a manner that, because it's about participation. Yeah. Your constitution says to be president, you have to be 40 years. And you are holding that. You don't see any reason why, when people at 29, 30 are already have double PhDs, they are running blue chip companies successfully, and you that is that is sent to amend the law, you have no second address. If you leave that place, you have nowhere to go to. You are constricting young people from participating. And what worries me is that even the young people themselves, who this is in their own self-enlightened interest to pressure for it, to mount the necessary pressure, are on their laptops. They are dining and whining on their laptops. When the things that affect them most prominently, what was the reason why they didn't go to Lagos to block that retreat? It's because nobody is asking questions. That's why you can do what you like, come back and say, look, there is no, young people have no place in politics. You even criminalize aspiration. That at 29, at 28, I cannot aspire to go to House of Representatives by law. The law says I can't even aspire. I have to wait until I'm 30. And there is no biological, there is no physiognomical reason, there is nothing that differentiates a 30-year-old
from a 29-year-old.
From 29-year-old. And then we are not the only ones that run a constitution. You can take constitution of other countries. The Ghana that is very close to us, South Africa is there. They don't even have age requirements. Yeah. If you can vote, if you can take my vote at 18,
yeah.
Why
can't I get votes?
Aspire? No, let's talk about even aspiration. Look at independent candidacy. People should be able to run elections without having to go and give a party 10 million naira, 20 million naira. Even for the last Oshu election, candidates dropped out because they could not pay. And people are making laws and they are not thinking in that direction.
All right, so Samson, Ezewa has actually hit on one issue that I know is of very serious concern to you, because the indications we are getting from the Senate particularly are not very cheerful. The not too young to run bill was the brainchild of your organization. And despite all the assurances given not too long ago, indications coming from the Senate to the fact that this bill probably is not even listed among what they will likely table for consideration.
Yeah, in fact,
again, that will be sad, because that is conscripting the political space the more.
You know, when I saw the media report, I was very, very shocked when one of the media platforms broke the news that the Senate or the House of Reps and the Senate Committee on Constitution Review have killed the not too young to run bill, or the amendment was not factored into the report, because that was coming on the heels of the several commitments. And I must make the point that quite frankly, you have members of the National Assembly who support youth inclusion. Particularly the leadership of the National Assembly that supports youth inclusion. Because even Speaker Dogara was clear to say that we are going to amend the Constitution and we must ensure that we remove age limits, the same as well as the Deputy Senate President. But this came to us as a shock. So what happened to their voices
at the crucial time?
Now, the point is, and I've read media reports saying our legislators are scared that young people would unseat them in 2019.
What's wrong with that?
And young people don't even have the leadership capacity to hold leadership offices. And it makes us really worried, because at a time in our history when we are talking about restructuring, you cannot restructure a political system by excluding your most productive workforce. Now, different countries, and let's look at this from three perspectives. I just feel that the political elite do not understand the fact that there is a connection between exclusion and our level of development. That when you exclude people from participating, what you simply do is to tell the whole world and your people that we are undeveloped and we are not ready to develop. And the fact that if you ask, and I've not seen, and this has been debated across board, that will youth inclusion in politics and decision making enhance democratic development? The answer is yes. So it beats my imagination why the National Assembly didn't prioritize this amendment. Because if there was one issue that young people across the entire country are resolved and have agreed to push, is it not too young to run? Across different states, you've got young people who are organizing and saying there is need to remove age limits from our constitution. There are legislators who have also pledged their commitment to the passage of this, because it will deepen intergenerational dialogue. There is no way a country can develop if young people are not sitting at that decision-making table. Okay. And you need that space where young people and our adults and our elders come to meet. If you look at inclusion, I've always said that democracy loses its vitality if you take away inclusion. And this whole narrative about young people unseating the elders, that is not what Not Too Young to Run actually seeks to achieve. In fact, what it even seeks to achieve is to bring more young people closer to government so they can learn from our the older generation, because life itself is a transition, and that's very, very critical. So we are actually asking the National Assembly, and particularly the leadership, they need to come out and clarify and tell us what is the state of this bill, and confirm whether the media reports we are seeing everywhere.
That media report has been days now.
Yes, it's been days,
and there has been no reporter,
and there has been no. And there has been no.
Samson is speaking English.
No, it's trying to be nice.
A lot of good English, about how the leadership took photo opportunities. You know how the National Assembly works. That a deputy Senate president is the chair of the Constitution Amendment
ad hoc
committee, and that some people paid a courtesy visit. He endorsed the bill and went to Lagos and forgot about it. Listen, a committee takes is from a committee that what is taken to Lagos is taken. So between the time the committee killed it and when you are going to Lagos, both leaders of the National Assembly did not know what was going to go to Lagos. I mean, you see, the challenge is to collectively understand that you have an elite that is gerontocratic in thinking and mindset. And the way to deal with them is the way you deal with getting independence. If the generation of young people who live in Nigeria today, we are the ones in 1960, will not get independence. They will negotiate it away. They will Twitter it away. They will Facebook it away. Until you make a demand, a concrete demand on these people, that will not happen. So it's not a matter of you paid courtesy call. It's a fine thing. Something that the United Nations, the UN, and that is the problem. Let me tell you, the political economy of even that exclusion is that UN and some members of National Assembly have been going to the UN. Yeah. So it means there is heavy funding for this campaign and you didn't see us. That's the challenge. And every other reason, young people cannot, all those ones cannot stand reason. Until you have a National Assembly that is working for public good, that is not transactional in thinking, you are not going to go anywhere.
And that can only happen through citizens' action. Yes. When people begin to bombard the National Assembly and hold them to account, like we saw in
you didn't do.
Was it in Venezuela?
Yes, not only Venezuela. Doing alternative.
Listen, you went to Lagos. Our issue didn't come up. You forgot it. You endorsed, and everybody is quiet.
No, but young people. No. I think the fact that young people are using technology and social media for organizing should be commended, and that's the greatest tool that we have. And if you go on social media
Are they
platforms,
doing that?
no, but young people
All
are
you just
doing
see are
it.
just
Young
people
people are doing that.
pouring invectives on each other.
No, but
Either you are for
the
this group or you are
leadership,
not for that group.
but the leadership of the Not Too Young to Run movement has been engaging and interfacing with the legislators, and we will continue to engage because they are still the decision makers. We will continue to engage and ensure that this issue is included in the bill. Today, there's a press conference that has been addressed, and we are waiting for a response from the leadership of the National Assembly as to the state of this bill. And if we don't get the response, we would pay the National Assembly members a visit and tell us what is actually
You give them another photo opportunity.
No, well, maybe in a different form. But we have already declared next week, Tuesday, 25th of July, as a National Day of Action, where we are going to be visiting the National Assembly. 25th of July, okay. Next week, Tuesday. We will be visiting the National Assembly, particularly the leadership, to ask them what is the state of this bill. You have made a commitment to Nigerians. You've made a commitment to the international community. We've just come to know, please tell us what is the state of this bill, and to also impress it on them that a lot of young people out there, and I've seen different calls, a lot of young people are already threatening to recall legislators.
They even sacked the entire
They have
National
already
Assembly.
told you that you are wasting your time. This Deputy Senate President, that is the one who is amending Constitution, is sitting down and telling the world that when citizens want to recall anybody, that they are wasting their time.
Yeah.
The grandfather of constitutional amendment in Nigeria, sitting down to tell you that your recall process,
in other words, the recall process in the Constitution was just put there for decoration or to satisfy people like you.
And I'm sometimes I ask myself whether I'm okay.
Are you hearing it rightly?
Rightly, is there a problem? Sitting down to say you can't. If you try recall, you are wasting your time.
If you are dissatisfied with your legislator, wait for his time to run out.
And then people, and the man who is in the constitution, who sits down every year, if you probe this constitutional amendment thing, the man will leave that National Assembly.
No, but Benga, the point also needs to be made that the Deputy Senate President or whoever, legislators can say whatever they want to say as they so wish. But it behoves on us.
Not a reply to citizen action.
But it behoves
not speak arrogantly where there's a citizen action.
It behoves on us as citizens to rise up and prove to them that we are indeed the kingmakers and we are the ones who have the power by asking the right questions, by engaging the National Assembly, by calling our legislators. And I tell you, since this publication actually came out, a lot of young people have been contacting and reaching out to their legislators. And if you see the response from their legislators, and I agree with you, that channel of communication between citizens and their legislators needs to be sorted out, it needs to be institutionalized, it needs to be open, it needs to be transparent, and it must enhance accountability.
17 years after we overthrew democracy.
Obamacare.
Yeah.
We are Trump with all his dramatization and everything Republicans have built around it. It's been impossible to repeal Obamacare. Why? Citizen action. The citizens are saying, look, you can't repeal it.
If you want to repeal this, show us what you want to.
Yeah.
You want to take something away, show us what you want to replace it.
We see they do budgets. We are not part of it. They do sometimes they say they are doing citizen. They come there, address you for 5 minutes. Immediately they do so, they sing national anthem and get out. When they get out, the remaining of them leave the place. Go to anything they call public hearing in the National Assembly. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. So citizens, Nigerian citizens have a responsibility. That open space in that National Assembly is not built for. It's not an empty space.
It's for purposes of taking protests.
So Boko Haram has been degraded. Open the National Assembly. Let people come in. Don't use security to fence your people. Check their websites permanently under construction. You can't reach anybody. You can't reach them. You can't reach them.
But in case viewers are wondering what this Not Too Young to Run bill is all about, it's just about broadening the space, removing a little bit or amending the age restriction. For instance, it proposes to amend Section 65, sub 1A, which talks about the qualification for the office of senator. What we have in the Constitution at the moment, under Section 65, 1A, is that for you to qualify to run for the office of senator, you cannot be less than 35 years. The Not Too Young to Run bill is proposing that this should be brought down to 30 years. Now, probably if you break it down like that for people to understand.
That's a compromise.
That's a compromise.
This 30 years that you are seeing is a compromise. It's compromise because there is still no argument as to why it should be 35, 30
yeah.
years. The alignment is what is the principled position. What is the alignment? If you can take my vote at 18,
if I can vote, I should be in a position to be voted
and
for.
Just check, you have your stuff here.
Yeah.
The Scandinavian countries are even reducing the age for voting to 15. They are not even staying on the 18 that we want to die on. They are coming down to 15. So what's the point? The point is that alignment is the principal thing. Take it off from your constitution. So not too young to run is the nicety of young people to say, okay, we know you that you will not even think of removing the bottlenecks. So why don't we bring it down? And even in that bringing it down, you are the hanky-panky is still going on.
And the question to ask is, what is wrong in a 30-year-old being allowed to be in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Because by the time you look at 35, as we have it currently, and then you look at the demography, the population demography in Nigeria, you see that people who will not be qualified to even aspire to be in the House, that of House of Reps, is 30 years in the Constitution. The Not Too Young to Run bill is proposing 25. If you look at the youth population in Nigeria, you are talking of people that constitute well over 65% of the population. And you are saying, you are looking them straight in the face, and you are telling them that their votes are what you need. That's the only thing that matters. But for them to be qualified to aspire to the same office, no.
The cliche that upsets me the most is the fact that when you hear the political elite speak, they talk about the potentials of young people. They talk about, yes, young people are energetic, young people are resilient, young people have the population, we've got all the energy. Now, how come when it comes to becoming special advisors, young people have the capacity, they have the competence? When it comes to conducting research, go to the Vice President's office. In fact, go to the National Assembly, go and check legislative aids. And those who do the research, how many legislators today write motions on their own? They've got young people who are doing this research for them. And so at the end of the day, the engine room is actually young people. So why do you continually subject young people to relegating them to doing the background and the backdoor job, and then they do not have the capacity to actually speak up? If you look at what some governors have done, today in this country, we've got a commissioner of planning and economic development in Anambra State. Mike Okoye. Mike Okoye was actually presented to the State House of Assembly in Anambra State at 28. But because he wasn't 30, he was disqualified. The same thing also, even in Cross River, a 30-year-old was actually appointed a commissioner. And go to Kaduna, for instance, in Erufai's government. There are a lot of young people. Why? Because there is a new paradigm that you can't transform economy, you can't transform a country from a third world to a first world. With this mindset, you need young people in the positions of power. You need young people to take critical decisions. But our political elite have not come to appreciate, first, the cost of exclusion. If you look at Boko Haram insurgency today, if you look at the level of criminality today, one of the driving factors is exclusion and inequality, and in this case, political inequality. But we've not appreciated the cost of exclusion. In the 2011 election, the post-election violence in 2011, there were several studies conducted by even INEC and even Frederick Ebert Stephen. And one of the findings was that the ruling elite in the North have not come to appreciate the level of resentment and anger on the part of young people for the years of exclusion and political exclusion. And so one way to address this challenge, which is a development challenge for us, and is to legislate, to remove age limits so young people can participate, first as a function of their right, two, as a way of addressing their socioeconomic challenge, and three, because you need young people if you must drive economic development. And it is established. The African Union has dedicated 2017 as a year of harnessing the demographic dividend in youth through investment in youth. But we have an elite and a National Assembly, particularly members of the committee, some members of the committee who voted against this, who think that as a country, we are not yet ready to invest in our youth politically. And I think that's a huge anomaly, and it's a disservice to this nation, and that must be addressed. And that's why the leadership of the committee and the leadership of the National Assembly have a role to play in ensuring that in this amendment process, they legislate not too young to run into the Constitution. They remove the age limits and young people will participate in the process actively, will contribute to national development.
All right, let me read some tweets and then let's draw the graphic example of what is playing out here. At 35 or 40, they have monopolized all the elected positions, either as governor, either the House of Reps, and all of that. When they have served in the House of Reps at 40, then they graduate to the Senate, and then they go and become governor at over 50, and then come back to the Senate and then retire there. Meanwhile, you and I are permanently kept out. And yeah, the future belongs to the youth. Let me read some tweets because the platform is working very actively well this morning, and the tweets are just pouring in. Biosa Chukuka, please tell the guests on suit, okay, that should be Samson, that if he wants this bill to pass through, he should stop talking like a politician and listen to the man on native. Okay.
But I'm not
talking like a politician. You said he's speaking too much English. And they don't understand
English. No, but I'm being very, very objective because it's effective.
No, you are being nice.
At the end of the day, it's effective advocacy. What we want is the National Assembly to consider.
That you should say it as it is. You should say it as it is. Ademola says, for youth to have ample opportunity in political decision making, firstly, make politics less lucrative. We're coming back to that. That is the necessary component of all of that we have also not looked at. If you say, all right, broaden the space, at 30 you can aspire to be president of Nigeria. How many 30-year-olds in Nigeria have billions in their account for them to nurse the ambition to be president of Nigeria? How do we also tackle that problem? Can we do it through law? Can we do it through orientation and all of that?
We have campaign finance limits, no doubt.
Let me read more to it. Maybe we'll get more along that line. When would Nigeria Constitution allow the best brain to drive political pillars in this country? That's Okpeyemi that is asking that. Omogbola and Babs, members of National Assembly would rather subject young lads, serve as their PAs, SAs, and what have you to perpetuate themselves in office. Okay. Dele Jackson mentioned the remaking of a constitution for the country is so crucial for the social harmony, political stability, and general well-being of the nation. Again, the political class will always look for ways of forestalling opportunities for the not too young to run to occupy political space. Tiabi Ulawa said the Nigerian sense of not too young to run, the Nigerian sense of not too young to run when given leadership political position, they will abuse it with gross impunity. Wow. Emmanuel Bauer, we the youth are not leveraging on our numeric strength and intellectual capacity to take our place in the political space. So what do we do about that? Aside the issue of youth participation in politics, another issue is the price for purchasing nomination forms. That too should be tackled. That's A.K. Sebastian Jr. that is asking that. I already asked that, yes.
Benga, on a more serious note, I charge the National Assembly and remove age limits for running for office, and you will see young people come out, young professionals come out and run for office, and they will win elections competent, very competent young people. Yes, no doubt, the commercialization of politics and the nature of our politics, even though we have campaign spending limits within our electoral law that are not implemented. But I tell you, let's not disenfranchise or marginalize young people on the basis of their economic strength or capacity, because that is not what democracy is about. There are young people today who are doing very, very well. There's a young person who got about $25 billion grant from Facebook. How many governors today, how many governors in the entire country have been able to secure those kind of grants for their state? There are young people who are running companies, multinational companies and social enterprises, who are doing so well, and they are richer than states in Nigeria.
All right.
And so they are young people. And of course, with the trend of building grassroots movement, young people can contribute to the campaigns of young candidates when they put themselves out to run for office. All
right, Samson, let me give you the opportunity of the last say as well. But you will respond to this. Jonathan Oche says, can I have the email contact of your guest? Can you give it quickly?
Sure. It's info@yiga.org.
Okay. That's for the not too young.
Yes, for the not too young to run is info at YIAGA.
Okay, I will write it down later and then probably respond to that Twitter. And Jonathan Oche is saying, you guys need to read my book, The Conspiracy Against Nigerian Youth, and you will save yourself the stress of grammar. Jonathan sent the book to me. I would like to read it too. We can even have you on this program someday.
Otumba,
quickly, 10 seconds, yes.
Otumba, the greatest threat to reforms in Nigeria is a club that you call Governors Forum. Until Nigerians see the threat that contraction represents. You see, what's happening is that just check the number of people in the Senate. Deputy governors, recreating themselves, just recreating themselves. And so they are the ones making the law. In the House of Representatives, they are also finding their platforms all across. That trend, they want to determine who will be president of Nigeria. Okay? They want to determine who will even be president of Nigeria. They are determining if you want to be councillor in Imo State and the governor does not say you will be, you will not be. That's where we are. So that threat needs to be identified, and citizen action is the only rescue on a more serious note.
All right. Thank you so much. Citizen action will be along that line probably tomorrow. Citizen action to call the National Assembly to order. How do we do that? All right. Thank you so much for today. I appreciate your time. Samson Itodo is of Not Too Young to Run movement. I appreciate your finding time to be here.
Thank you so much.
And Ezewa Wago is chairman partners for electoral reform. Thank you so much, Ezewa.
I appreciate
your time. That's Focus Nigeria today. Thank you for investing your time with us. Enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing.